Hey everybody, thank you so much for clicking on this video. This is the 5th video out of a 6-part series where I break down basic lifts in the gym. Now, I made all of these videos about 3 or 4 years ago, but honestly, I have a lot more experience, education, and better filming equipment, so I figured now's the time to remake them. Now, if you're seeing these videos as they're released, I am currently on a very fun but very long vacation, so I will not be able to respond to your comments in real time like I typically do. So to keep the algorithm on our side, I want you right now to drop in the comments what lunge variation you would choose if you absolutely had to, because I know a lot of you despise lunges and would say none if you could. But let's hop into the video and hopefully we can get lunges back on your side. The main muscles targeted in the lunge are the quads, glutes, hamstrings, and adductors. Now, what's biased is highly dependent on which variation you're choosing. For example, a front lunge is typically very quad dominant, while a lateral lunge will recruit more of the glutes due to the hinge involved. So when we're selecting our lunge variation, that's something to keep in mind based off of our programming and our goals. Now let's walk through a few of the most common lunge variations I see and how to properly execute them. The reverse lunge is my absolute favorite lunge out there. I think it's not only the most useful for general population, but typically the most accessible to learn. And depending on why you've programmed it, you can make it more glute or quad focused. Keeping the torso more upright will recruit more quad, but taking a slight hip hinge will recruit more glute. There's no right or wrong answer here. There's just your why and your enjoyment. A close second favorite for me is the lateral lunge. Not only do we get some hinge in here to bias a bit more of the glutes, we're also recruiting a lot of inner thighs and abductors moving in that frontal plane side to side. Some key form notes here are to make sure that your toes point to the front to reduce the stress on the knees and to send your hips back. That way you can get a big ol' stretch on the glutes before you come back up to standing. The last lunge variation we'll work through is the front lunge, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't program a ton of these. It's a much more challenging variation to find your balance, and it can just be hard on people's knees. If I wanna train someone lunging forward, I'm probably just gonna do walking lunges instead. While they're also brutal, they're typically easier for people to grasp since you're moving forward the entire time, and the crossover is a little bit better to how we move in daily life, walking and running. Now, I get asked all of the time where to hold your weight in different exercises. So I'm gonna walk you through a few different progressions in different lunges of what I would do with different clients. But if you're someone who works out at home and you don't have access to unlimited equipment, this is also a great way to just understand how challenging your different lunge variations can be based off of where you hold your weight. I'm typically gonna start people with a goblet position. This means that the weight is at your chest, so aligning with more of your center of gravity, and it also means that we can actively feel the core working to really develop some full body tension. After that, I typically progress people to a suitcase position where you hold the weights by your side. This option is great because you can really load it up and get some great muscle gains. And for many people, this is where I stop. But if you want to challenge your stability a bit more in lunges, or you have limited equipment, we can utilize a few other holds. I view the racked position as a progression because now you're utilizing more of your core to maintain balance, and your shoulders are definitely going to get more fatigued. So this is a great option if you only have access to a medium set of weights, or if you're short on time and you want your arms a little toasty too. Now, the offset position is actually one of my favorites in group classes because so many people that I work with online just have access to like one heavy weight at home. So you can rack it either on the shoulder or down by your side, and now you're challenging your core a bit more to resist leaning in or away from the weight. You can also either hold it on the same side as the working leg, which is known as ipsilateral, or the opposite side, which is known as contralateral. Typically, holding it on the opposite side is going to be a bit easier on your balance because now you're balanced between the stable leg and the weight. But you can see that you've got a lot of options here for progression, which is why I love utilizing this offset position. Now let's dive into the most common mistakes that I see with lunges and how I would recommend correcting them. The first mistake I see is dropping into the lunge. This tells me that we're lacking tension on the down phase and relying on gravity. Not only does this make it harder to get back up out of the lunge, but we're also taxing the joints more than we need to. So instead, I want you to think of placing your foot into the lunge with intention. Breath connection can also help this by inhaling back, filling the core canister, and then taking a nice sharp exhale to brace as we return to standing. Another mistake I see is kicking the moving leg to use momentum on the up phase. Again, this is basically just taking out some of the work associated with the lunge. To correct it, I typically have people hold onto something stable like a squat rack or a wall just to help them feel what it's like to remove the momentum factor. And then the final mistake I see is the knee coming way over the toe. And this isn't necessarily a mistake because you can absolutely do a lunge variation that way, but most people I come across don't own that range of knee flexion, and it starts to irritate their joints over time. So instead, I like to have most people pull the knee back in line with the ankle and take a slight hinge to create some space for the hips. Again, this isn't necessarily a mistake if done intentionally, but most people I see aren't doing this with intention. All right, so I hope that video was helpful. I hope you are a little bit more confident in your lunges. We've got to give a huge shout out and thank you to Fitness Lounge for letting us film in their space, and of course to Kevin for helping us film all of the B-roll content. Again, please interact with this content by either liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting, and hopefully when I get back from vacation, I'll see you in the next one. I want to be kind of sideways for this. Is that about right?
Kind of sideways or sideways?
Sideways. Okay. Heart at 152.
That's pretty high.
I know, that's really high.
66%.
Oh, amazing. It's funny, you're 69.
Ooh.
See that in Artist Theory?
Yes, I see all of it. I've seen some shit you wouldn't.